Hey everyone, welcome back. My name's Chris.
I'm Isaiah, and this is the Aos-to-Aos podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Aos-to-Aos podcast. Today we're talking about the difference between poor people and rich people. Most people think that the difference is a lot of cars, maybe a big house, a large income, maybe making $500,000, $1 million a year, whatever it is. But really the difference is the way that you spend your money and the way that you use your money to work for you. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think this is a really exciting subject, and it's a subject that's really misunderstood by a lot of people because, like you say, people think that being rich means that you got a flashy car and a huge house and, jewelry and nice clothes and stuff. But, I mean, we've talked about this before, how it's a matter of perception. For me, being rich is not having to look at the bank balance before I go to the grocery store and, being able to buy the stuff I want within reason, without actually having to budget for it. I mean, that to me is the idea of rich.
Exactly, yeah. And, living within your means. Something that I put in the notes is the difference between Allen Iverson and Michael Jordan. You know who Allen Iverson is, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so Allen Iverson was a basketball player. Michael Jordan was a basketball player. They both made millions of dollars playing in the NBA. But Allen Iverson today is broke, and Michael Jordan is a billionaire with a net worth of $2.1 billion. So how did that happen? And some people might say that Michael Jordan was paid more. Sure, whatever. He was paid more. But he probably would still be a billionaire today, even if he got paid the same amount as Allen Iverson, because he did different things than Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson bought, shoes, clothes, houses, cars. He spent all this money on fish tanks and all this stuff you don't really need. And Michael Jordan got deals with Nike, and he invested his money. He bought the Charlotte Hornets. He bought a minority stake in the Marlins, the baseball team, the Marlins. He owns all these brands and things like that, and he used his money, the money he got, to work for him. And so now he's a billionaire, and Allen Iverson, who spent all his money, is not. He's actually quite poor. So, and I mean, this isn't just for people like Michael Jordan and Allen Iverson who's making millions of dollars. This is for people also like making $500 and then they spend $510. You're poor if you make $500,000 a year and you spend $510,000 a year. You are poor because you're living way above your means, and usually, fixing the difference with credit cards and putting yourself into more debt. Whereas somebody who makes $40,000 a year and maybe lives off $20,000 or $30,000 a year is rich because they have the $10,000 or $20,000 a year cushion that they're able to use to save and invest to grow their wealth and to push themselves further into life. And that's, if Michael Jordan made $40,000 a year, he would still probably be a rich man today. Yeah. Because it's not the money you make, it's how you use that money.
Absolutely. And it's kind of interesting, like we've talked before about the book, The Millionaire Next Door, and that was a study done of everyday millionaires, people, like you or I or the viewers out there that, just go to work and have a job and they, make, pretty modest incomes. And they were saying the average income for most millionaires that they interviewed was a combined income of about $80,000 a year. They're talking about, people like construction workers and teachers and stuff like that don't have huge incomes, but they just spend their money properly. So, making $80,000 a year, living in a modest neighborhood, only spending $60,000 a year and putting that other money to work for them, that's how most people become millionaires, is by being frugal and being smart with their money.
Exactly, yeah. And I actually was watching a video. So I wrote the notes and everything, and then I was watching this video today about a janitor who was able to retire with $8.8 million as his net worth and things like that. And the reason he got that far was he was a World War II veteran, and he worked at a gas station for 20 years and lived way below his means. He bought used cars. he, invested and saved, and he invested for the long term instead of just day trading and doing all his I'll buy this and then tomorrow I'll sell it for $1 more. He invested for the long term. He bought used cars, lived below his means, and then eventually he actually became a janitor, kept doing the same old stuff, and by the time he was 97, he had a net worth of $8.8 million. And there's people out here who are they could even be making millions of dollars a year, and they are going to die maybe $8.8 million in debt. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like a janitor is able to be a millionaire and $8.8 million in assets and his net worth, and people are making millions of dollars a year, and they're going to be in debt, and they're going to pass that on to their family. It's not what you make, it's what you do with that money. You have to make your money work for you if you want to be a millionaire. Do you agree with that statement, don't you?
Absolutely. I mean, you got to be smart. I mean, a lot of these, sports stars and actors and music artists that make all this money. I mean, MC Hammer is one that's talked about a lot because he went from being a pastor in a small church, and I think it was in Brooklyn, and during the 90s, 80s, and 90s, he made millions and millions of dollars, but he spent way more than he made. So now he's back to, being, a pastor, making a modest income, and, I'm pretty sure he had to go through a bankruptcy because he spent so much money that he couldn't, pay it all back. So, there's a lot of people out there that are like that, but I mean, there's a lot of people out there as well, like the actors and the sports stars that they knew that money wasn't going to last forever. That money was going to be a short-term thing. I mean, you mentioned Michael Jordan. I mean, he knew, eventually he wasn't going to be able to play sports forever. So, he made some moves so that he could be successful in life. Another great example of that is Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson is actually, I think, a better example of it because, I mean, he was an excellent basketball player. But his career got cut short. I mean, he was one of the first prominent cases of HIV and AIDS, and he was able to take that money that he made during his sport career and reinvested that in business. He's become a very successful businessman, but he's a prime example of what, taking that money and thinking about the long term. And a lot of people just don't think about that. They think about living in the day.
Exactly. And I put as an example, like the dollar amount here doesn't matter. You could be if you make $1 million a year and you spend $500,000 a year, you invest $500,000 a year or save $500,000 a year, you're going to be very rich in the future. You might even be a billionaire in the future. Or if you're making $20,000 a year, you could be a millionaire or a billionaire in the future. The dollar amount doesn't matter. You got to work hard to save and invest and to, put yourself in a better position tomorrow. We're talking about all these sports stars and stuff like that, but it's the average Joe can do this. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be a basketball player making millions of dollars. You don't have to be a football player making millions of dollars. You just have to live below your means and save and invest the difference that you make.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure everyone knows someone that, they work at, like a gas station. They make, $12 an hour or $10 an hour, but they look successful, and you kind of look at people like that, some people might look at them and go, oh, well, they must have, got a windfall or their parents must take care of them. Well, no, it's because people, live within their means. They buy the stuff that's important to them and buy stuff that they can afford to pay for. Like, you might see a person that makes $24,000 a year and they live in a nice house. Maybe that house is only worth $150,000 or something like that. But I mean, at $24,000 a year, you would think that they would be. You look at a lot of people who make $24,000 a year and they're living in a crappy little apartment or a trailer house or something like that because they take that money that they make and they spend it on things like iPods and wheels for the car, things like that. It's a matter of how you spend your money. And I mean, even at $24,000 a year, I mean, if you, live in a modest home in a modest neighborhood and drive an older car and don't spend your money on frivolous things, I mean, you can still save money. It's just a matter of, making that a priority.
Yeah, and I mean, well, and also we're kind of harping on not spending money, but there's nothing wrong with spending money. You can spend money, you know what I mean? But you want to budget for it usually. Mm-hmm. And And I put in my notes here, the person who's making $500,000 a year, if they spend $450,000 a year, that's cool. Like if they want to save that much money, and then they can spend $10,000 a year on whatever they want, or they can save to the point where they're making millions and they can have that Lamborghini that they wanted. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with having nice things. You can have a mansion and a Lamborghini, but usually my rule is you want to buy it twice or you can't afford it. So if you want to buy a Lamborghini that's $1 million, you need to have $2 million to put towards that Lamborghini, plus you need to have, the double amount of whatever house you're buying. Well, houses are different because they do appreciate in value, so do Lamborghinis and stuff like that, but if you're going to buy this outrageous ginormous mansion that you're going to live in, make sure you have that cushion. If you're just buying a $100,000 house, you can always finance that and do whatever you need to if you can't afford it. But as far as luxury expenses and things like that go, if you can't afford it twice, you can't afford it. I bought a laptop that was like $1,000 for $400, unless I had $800 in the bank, and then enough also to cover my housing and my phone bill and all that kind of stuff. If I didn't have that plus $800 more, I would not be able to buy that $400 laptop because I didn't have the amount plus another dollar amount the similar. You know what I mean? Like, so 2 times that dollar amount. That was a really weird way of explaining that, but like 2 times the dollar amount of whatever you're buying. If you don't have that plus all your other incomes, then you can't afford it, is my philosophy. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having nice things at all. Everyone wants nice things. Everyone should have nice things if they're able to afford them, but that's the key word right there. If you're able to afford them, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a pretty good rule of thumb. I mean, it's and the other thing is, also, using guidelines for when you're buying a home or when you're buying a car. A lot of people think, okay, I can afford, this much of a payment, but what they do is they take their income and they say, okay, I have to pay this, and this is the dollar amount I have left over, so that's what I can afford to make payment for. But that's the wrong way to look at it. I mean, there's a lot of different calculations, but like your payment or your value of your car should not be more than what was the word? I think the most common one is about 30% of your yearly wages. So if you make $30,000 a year, you should not drive more than a $9,000 car. If you make $100,000 a year, you should have no more than a $30,000 car, and that's the value of it. So and then you go from there and you can break down your payment and stuff, but that's a good rule of thumb. And the same thing with your housing payment as well. 30% of your income each year is what they say should be your housing payment or below. That way you can maintain it and it doesn't cut into necessities and things like that, and it does it still leaves your money for savings and things like that. So
exactly, yeah. Yep. And I mean, I think there's a lot of really good books out there for, sorry, I'm eating Skittles, but there's a lot of really good books out there for people who want to learn more about this. We talked about The Millionaire Next Door. That's from what I heard. I haven't read that one. That's a pretty good one that you can kind of learn more about it. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is one I've read. The books by Dave Ramsey. He has a really good job of explaining things like that and how to get past your debt and how to invest your money so you can retire a millionaire, retire with a pretty high standard of living. And those are some pretty good ones. Do you have any other book suggestions that people can go out and check out, or maybe some YouTube channels that people can go look at too, besides the Aos-to-Aos podcast, which is obviously the best one, but some other YouTube channels that people can go and check out, and some other books and stuff like that?
Nothing off the top of my head, but I mean, like Dave Ramsey has a YouTube channel. He's definitely, one of the ones on top of my list. One of the things I like about Dave Ramsey is he's honest. He doesn't say, well, you should, or this. He says, this is what you need to do, and he's very blunt about his teachings. He's very strict about, his baby steps and, how to be successful, because I think one of the things that we do as people is that we justify and we make excuses and stuff like that, and Dave Ramsey is really good for not letting us do that. So Total Money Makeover is pretty much his cornerstone book. He's got some others out there, but if you're looking for something to try and get on track and start budgeting and start, allocating your money properly and paying off debt and things like that, that's a good place to start.
Yeah, and he does another one called Financial Peace, or Financial Peace, and then he has another program called Financial Peace University. I think one thing you want to stay away from those gurus on YouTube, not these ones here talking today, but I mean the ones that show up on your ad and it's like, a year ago I was in whatever student loan debt and today I'm debt free and this is how I do it, but you have to pay me $2,000 to learn how I did it. You want to stay away from those guys. If they're giving away the information for free, like that's cool. Or if it's a book, from a well-known person, but I would stay away from the gurus saying you can make $10 million a month on this one trick, but you need to pay me so much money to do it. I wouldn't listen to that. Go check out some real resources, do your research, and then apply the principles in this video to live below your means and save and invest the difference. If you want to learn how to save and invest, different tips and stuff like that, especially different investing tips, where to put your money in the stock market, blah blah blah, go check that out too on YouTube, and you can really use those tips as fundamental building blocks to push your life forward and to live a better quality of life than you're living today.
Absolutely, it's really good advice. There's definitely a lot of different programs out there, Amazon and things like that, all these ClickBank programs, all these affiliate programs, paid surveys. I mean, you could go on and on talking about these kind of things, and you just got to be really careful, because a lot of it, they're making money off these programs. This is not something that they're doing out of the goodness of their heart, but you go onto YouTube and you start finding some of these real truthful leaders, like Dave Ramsey, Graham Stevens, another one that we like to watch. There's several out there. These are guys that are doing this because they really want to help you, and you just really need to pay attention to what the motive is. If they're if the first thing they're doing is asking you for money, you probably want to skip that, get to the next video, and just find people that really want to help you.
Exactly, and sometimes it's not even business. I get motivated from people like Joe Rogan, even, listening to Joe Rogan talk. He's very motivational. You can kind of argue that he's a business person because his podcast is like his product and he's out there, but even people like, I just bought Kobe Bryant's book, Mamba Mentality. That's another one I'm reading that's very inspiring as well. So you can find different motivational channels that are outside of business too. Don't just be stuck in the business. Don't listen to just Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, all that kind of things. Even though those people are very intelligent, you should listen to them in some aspects. But you're closing yourself off from a lot of really good information and a lot of really good resources if you just listen to those business people. So also go outside of that. You can listen to comedians who are very successful, because those people know a lot about being successful and they're able to share their perspective. And athletes and even just people who have a job but they're making a lot of money because they started from the ground, and then they worked up to being a manager, district manager, vice president, president. They worked their way up, and you can listen to those people as well. It's not just the billionaires and millionaires of the world that you need to listen to. Other people have great advice as well. I heard about these two guys. It's a father and son duo. They do a podcast on YouTube. They talk about all this kind of stuff. They're fantastic. I love them. I think what is it called again? Do you remember the name?
Aos-to-Aos podcast.
That's it. Yeah. The one white kid's kind of nerdy, but it's a pretty good podcast overall. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of resources you can check out.
Absolutely.
But I think we can probably wrap up here.
All right. Well, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the content today. We really enjoyed talking about this. It's something that I think we're both passionate about, and I hope that we said something that will really impact you. Yeah.
Another one thing that I wanted to mention real quick is that we kind of got a little off track with our schedule. Missed a couple weeks. We had a little mishap with kind of our personal lives and stuff like that, so we're not going to let that happen again. So I just wanted to apologize real quick to the viewers that have been following us, the 22 subscribers that we have now. So thank you for kind of coming back and watching it if you did watch it and stuff like that. And make sure to leave a like down below, comment if you want us to talk about anything, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our content.
Absolutely. And make sure to click that bell icon so you're notified when we upload new videos. Thanks for joining us today.
Have a good one. See you next time.